Well, hello and welcome to another Two Wise Birds. I'm Sue Boynton, independent dental-legal consultant.
And I'm Dr. Jane Lelean, and I'm a business coach and trainer. Yeah. So, Sue, Two Wise Birds, what we all about? It's about giving short tips to people that need it. And I think the feedback that we've been getting is that our tips are applicable. So people can put them into practice immediately. It's really useful gems of information. So that said, what's been going on in your world that we can help people with?
Oh, now that's really interesting. I've had quite a few conversations with people by email, by telephone, even by Zoom this week about complaints.
Okay.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's two different views on complaints. There's some people saying, well, we shouldn't ever have complaints, so let's hide our complaints procedure so patients don't see it. Let's keep our head down and let's hope for the best. And if they're not happy, maybe they'll just go away. And then there's the other cohort of people that are saying, do you know what? If there's something patients aren't happy with in our practice, I'd like to know about it. And then I can do something about it. And it's that second cohort that I lean to. So I'm always saying, train your staff, get everybody in the team ready to capture any little bits of dissatisfaction, any little niggles, so you can capture it and sort it out. Because do you know what? It's a bit like having one of those business gurus come to your practice and find out all these things, but you're getting it for free from your patients, and then you can deal with it. What do you think about that?
I can remember something you said once, and it's really struck me and stayed with me. And you said that the first thing that somebody needs to do when a patient is complaining is to really find out, is it a complaint or just feedback? Because most of the time it is just feedback.
Particularly if you give patients that choice, because they
Yeah.
often don't know. And often the first thing they'll say is, oh, I don't know, what's the difference? And that's a really good opportunity to tell them what you do with feedback in your practice. And the more they know you're going to do something with feedback, the more likely they are to give you feedback. And
And
it's
I also recognize that it's not just the patients that don't know there's a difference. I've seen evidence of team members that assume that when a patient says, oh, can I just say something? Well, let me just refer you to the complaints procedure. When in actual fact, it might be that the patient just wants to say, there's never any spare toilet paper, or I would really like a hook on the inside of the toilet door, or yeah, do you know what? I really like my dentist, but it annoys me that they never run on time. They're valuable feedback, but absolutely don't need to go on a complaints process.
I think that's right. And I think sometimes people are thinking, well, hang on a minute, it sounds like they're not happy, so I'll reach for the complaints process and then almost run it through a computer algorithm. And complaints and feedback, it's a personalized thing. It's that listening thing. And it's letting the patient know that, yes, I'm interested, I'm listening, and I'm going to do something about it in one way or another. I
Yeah.
tell you, I had another interesting question as well. Somebody said to me, I don't know what to do. I've had a phone call and it's the dental complaints service and they want to talk to me about a patient's treatment. What should I do? And I can understand why people are nervous when an external body rings up, but you're going to laugh with this, Jane. But the first thing I would say is ring
Ring
them
them.
back. Just listen, find out what they've got to say. You know,
Absolutely.
it could be something and nothing. It could be something that needs sorting out. But the only way you're going to find out is by give them a buzz back and find out what it is and go on from there.
But the Dental Complaints Board, they are a conciliation service, aren't they?
Yeah, what they do, it's quite interesting. It's called facilitated resolution. And you and I would call it, it's resolving a complaint. It's listening to one side, it's listening to the other side and trying to bring them together. And I've come across quite a few dentists who've had a good experience with them unexpectedly. So they didn't know what to expect when the patient went there. And I'll tell you something, part of it's because they're funded by the GDC, part of it's because their office is inside the GDC at the moment. So although they're separate, you can see why people would think that.
Mm,
And it's that listening and it's that resolution.
yeah, a bit like ACAS do when it comes to team and staff.
Yeah. So don't be nervous, listen to them. And if you're not sure about anything at all, there's no problem with getting your indemnity organisation on side as well, if they've not already been in your complaint. So dental complaint service, it's the second stage of the private complaints procedure. So it's usually something you know about and you've been dealing with in-house, and maybe you think it was resolved. And then suddenly you hear something else about it. So don't be scared of getting indemnity involved as well.
Yeah, and I always think it's interesting from a complaints perspective, is that a lot of people assume that when a patient complains, it's because they want some money. Now, don't get me wrong, we do know there are ambulance chasers, and hopefully we can actually have a pre-examination process that can weed those out. But we may get ambulance chasers, and if it's justified because there are occasions where it is appropriate that there is recompense. But I think that those situations are so few and far between, because I think about my own personal experience. If ever I make a complaint and I've had or raise issues, they're not really complaints, but I've had my mom who's been sick and been in hospital, my uncle's sick and in hospital, and actually whenever I raise something, it's because I don't want it to happen to somebody else. So one of the biggest things recently is that my uncle, I've always known him as Ted. He's Ted, but he was christened Edward. And there was one particular ward that they would not call him Ted. And at one point I was even told, oh, we're professionals, therefore we have to call him Edward. Now, I didn't take that any further, but actually, if I did, it was like, actually, I don't want any money. I don't want there to be a big deal. I just want to make sure that patients are called by their preferred name. And I think that's what most of our patients, your patients that are listening to this, they're not out to sue you. They're out to make your practice better, your patients.
Yeah, you're right. And it's things you don't know. And I've had patients say before, I don't know if you know this, but your front step's coming a bit loose. And I'm worried when I walk on it that, something might happen. And it is things you haven't noticed yourself sometimes. Because how many times have you been in and out and not noticed what your path's like, not noticed what the steps are like? Because you see it every day.
So if we were to distill this conversation down to 3 points that somebody can take away and apply next time they're doing their listening to a patient.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, don't be scared when a patient wants to say something, and when you can tell from their body language that they're not happy, don't be scared to say, you don't seem very happy. Is there something I can help you with? Listen to find out what it's about. If it's a verbal complaint, that's easy. If it's a written complaint, you can ring them up and say, I'd like to talk to you about it. I'd like to understand. Offer them that discussion. It's really helpful. And don't be scared to learn something from complaints as well. It's good for the practice. Patients like it, as well as you've just said, Jane. CQC likes it, GDC likes it, NHS likes it. Everyone likes learning from complaints. So, you can't lose. And that key question, is this feedback or is this a complaint?
That's a gem. Yeah. Brilliant. And can I just add something that you said about the difference between an email or a letter and a conversation? I always think that an email or a letter, something that's in text, is like a black and white still photograph as far as the information that it contains. When we have a face-to-face conversation, maybe over Zoom, it then becomes like a 3-dimensional Technicolor film, because we get all the body language, we get all the tone, the intonation, and we get much, much more information, and we can listen much better. I think that things in letter and email become very confrontational very quickly. Whereas when we just pick up the phone, what is it you want me to know about? How can I help you? It often just deflates it.
I think that's absolutely right. And sometimes you have to be careful with wording as well, because it can be used positively and it can be misinterpreted as well. You and I know we'll misinterpret words and phrases in a different way. So I hope that's given people some really good ideas this week. What do you think?
I hope so. I hope they can turn their complaints into feedback and their practices can grow as a result.
Absolutely. Oh, and actually, I've got a free handout about how to get fewer complaints and more feedback. So if anybody wants that, I'll put the email for it at the bottom of, sorry, the website address for it at the bottom of the video when I put it up. And you've got some stuff as well, haven't you, Jane?
Yeah, I've got some free downloads, 10 steps to a profitable practice and top tips for young dentists and associates. So they're just downloads on my website too.
Let's put those on as well.
Yeah.
So at the end of each of these things, we've got resources for people to go to if it helps them.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Well done, everybody. Thank you for that. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.